Things are gonna get crazy!
Most everyone's mad here.
Greetings and salutations, my beautiful people. Welcome to AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast, and we have just entered the very last month of this decade. Yes, we have entered upon December 2019, and this time around, this is going to be the time when things will absolutely get even more crazy than usual with the news that we are about to receive. Now, things are going to get much bigger. We're going to be hearing a whole lot about what's going to be happening this week and some major news that are going to be coming out, especially with this episode. You will see this will be jam-packed with a lot of major information regarding the stuff that's going to be coming in 2020. So now, this is the time that we are going to put our hype to the max for what's going to be arriving for not just the new year with 2020, but with the new decade. So with all that said and done, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I want to first ask you guys, are you all ready for today's episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast? Let me hear it. Are we all ready? Are we all prepared for this? Let me see now. All right. Looks like we got some prepared. Yep. All right. We got, okay. Now it's pointing up. All right. There we go. Now we see the people are prepared. That is great. I'm almost ready. I just need to do one thing. All right. There we go. I think I let out some gas. That's going to be good enough. I'm sure it will continue in the middle of all this, but screw it. Let's go and get this one started. And with our first story, now, as we are approaching the end of the year and we are starting a brand new year, that can only mean one thing for movies. And that is, well, not just movies, but for entertainment in general, that award season is upon us. Coming very soon, we are going to get an avalanche of lists of nominations that are going to be coming out for all the movies of 2019 and all the great achievements of 2019. So you got to brace yourselves for that moment, because I'm sure YouTube is going to be filled with so many top 10 lists, and you're going to have like news outlets bringing out the best and worst moments of 2019 and all that kind of stuff. But with awards, we are going to go and celebrate all the major stuff. But the first list of awards that we have gotten is the biggest one for animation. And what I'm going to be talking about is, of course, the Annie Awards. Yes, Asifa Hollywood has officially released the list of nominations for the 47th Annual Annie Awards. Now, to go and get things started, I'm going to start off by listing off some of the big ones, the ones that you guys would probably be the most interested in. So let's go ahead and start off by listing out the best TV shows made for children. So let's go and see the list, and the nominees are Disney Mickey Mouse, Nico and the Sword of Light, Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Tales of Arcadia 3 Below, and finally, The Tom and Jerry Show. Next up, we also got Best TV Show for a General Audience, and those nominees are Netflix, no, not Netflix, sorry about that, let me restart that, and the nominees are Big Mouth, BoJack Horseman, Harley Quinn, Tuca and Birdie, and finally, Undone. Now let's go and jump onto the best special production. This is not necessarily a TV show or a movie, but it's more of its own thing. Like, it's the best miscellaneous category for something that is related to animation. And the nominees for that are Guava Island, Titles and Prologue, How to Train Your Dragon Homecoming, Infinity Train, The Perennial Child, SpongeBob SquarePants, SpongeBob's Big Birthday Blowout, and finally, Zog. But now let's go and jump onto the movies category, and these are some pretty big ones that we got here. And we're going to start things off by looking into the best indie feature, and the nominees for that are Brunuel in the Labyrinth of the Turtles, I Lost My Body, Oko's Inn, Promare, and finally, Weathering With You. And then finally, the big one, the one that people have been waiting for the most, Best Feature. And the nominees for those are Frozen 2, How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World, Klaus, Missing Link, and finally, Toy Story 4. Now, those are the main ones that have been nominated, or at least the main categories, like the big ones that people are going to be focusing on the most. But of course, as it is the Annie Awards, there are a grand total of 32 nominations. And I do have a little list here. Well, Wikipedia has provided a little list of the ones that have received the most nominations. And in terms of the ones that have gotten the most, it's actually quite surprising because there is one that, well, okay, it is kind of expected, but then there is another one that is a major surprise. And by the way, just on a side note, that this little section on Wikipedia, there is a little bit of an error because there is one that is listed in 7 instead of 8. They should be fixing that soon, hopefully, but I just want to point that out. And I know that one of them actually does have 8 because I did count. So the ones who have gotten the most nominations is Frozen 2 with 8 nominations. And also another one that got 8 nominations is Missing Link. Apparently that one is also a major big player. I don't know why they did that mistake here on Wikipedia, listing it just only having 7 nominations when it actually has 8. Again, they need to go and fix that soon. But yeah, it is kind of surprising that, like, even with, like, Pixar in the competition, with DreamWorks in competition, when they both released some very powerful sequels, but as it turns out, it's Missing Link, the one that seems to be the strongest contender, with each of them having 8 nominations. So that's actually quite impressive, I must say. And then we also got another one that's not far behind, that's taking the silver medal in second place, and that would actually be Netflix's Klaus. And when that one was released, I know that many animation fans were just amazed by that thing. It was like the latest and greatest animated project that came out on Netflix ever since, like, BoJack Horseman and Tales of Arcadia in general, like with Troll Hunters. So, so not that big of a surprise that Klaus really made a major impact at the Annies as well. And then there are others that are also not far behind. A trio of animated features that actually did very well on their own. With 6 nominations each, they include Toy Story 4, How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World, and I Lost My Body. So apparently I Lost My Body is a major contender independent-wise, where it's also in competition against many of the mainstream movies. And I will say right now, I do have a very strong feeling that I Lost My Body could be the big winner for Best Independent Animated Feature at the Annies. So just keep an eye out on that one. And then there are some of the others that actually did pretty well on their own. They're not like standout stars compared to like Frozen 2 or Missing Link or whatever, but you know, they still gathered a good amount of nominations. There is also another independent animated feature that did very well, collecting 4 Annie nominations, and that is Weathering With You, along with DreamWorks' Abominable, collecting a good amount of nominations, also getting 4. And then there was also a trio of animated features that have managed to go, not accelerate as much as some of the bigger animated features, but they did pretty well. They did get a couple of Annie Awards, and those ones include Spies in Disguise, The Secret Life of Pets 2, and The Addams Family. But that is not all to mention. It is also important to note about the juried awards, because there are a few individuals that have received a special Annie Award for their contribution in animation. first of all, I'm gonna save the big one for last. Let's go into the June Foray Award, which this year will go to Jeanette Bonds, who is a writer, independent animator, and co-founder and director of Glass Animation. And then we also got the iWorks Award, which will go to Jim Blinn, which I will go and read directly from the Annie Awards website, as it states. Jim Blinn is a computer scientist who first became widely known for his work as a computer graphics expert at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, particularly his work on the pre-encounter animations for the Voyager project. And by the way, for those of you who don't know, the June Foray Award is more like the humanitarian award for the Annies, while the iWorks Award is more like the technical award, like the one who would advance the technology in animation. And then we got the Winsor McKay Award, which is the Lifetime Achievement Award in animation. And this year, we have gotten technically four individuals that are very standout and well-known celebrities in the world of animation that are getting it this year. First and foremost, one Winsor McKay Award shall go to Satoshi Kon, the late legendary Japanese director of such acclaimed Japanese animated features including Perfect Blue and Paprika. Then we also got Henry Selick, the legendary stop-motion director of such films as Coraline, James and the Giant Peach, and who couldn't forget The Nightmare Before Christmas. And then finally, we got Disney's dynamic duo of the Renaissance, John Musker and Ron Clements, both of which have directed many fantastic animated features for Disney, including The Great Mouse Detective, The Little Mermaid, Aladdin, Hercules, Treasure Planet, The Princess and the Frog, and most recently, Moana. So they are all receiving the Winsor McKay Award. So looking into this list, it's actually quite surprising and pretty nice to see how in terms of the nominations, and by the way, just on a side note, I will be focusing a lot more onto the movies category instead of the TV show category. Like as usual, when you would look into the television category, it's often like evenly spread out, even though like you would see some repeats as well. Like you would see a lot of How to Train Your Dragon Homecoming appear. You would see like several different like you got like a variety of shows. Apparently, like you got DC superhero girls often being there, and then of course like Disney Mickey Mouse, always like a fan favorite there. Tom and Jerry show surprisingly often coming up. But yeah, like considering that we do have like so many different TV shows going on, it is a wider variety there. There's not a lot to really explain, but focusing on the movies category, it is actually very nice that everything does seem to be evenly spread out, and it does leave you this year into a major guessing game, because technically there is two animated features that have the same amount of most nominations, with Frozen 2 and Missing Link, and it's not as much this year. It's only like 8 maximum. Like in the previous years, we would see movies like Coco or Incredibles 2 and other movies that would usually be from like Disney or Pixar and stuff like that, that usually they would get into the double digits. They would get around 10 nominations or 12 nominations or maybe even more. So it is nice to see that it is very evened out, and even if they don't have as much as 8, you know, they're not that far behind, especially with movies like Klaus, and then you got like the trio of films like How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World, Toy Story 4, and I Lost My Body, where they got 6 nominations. So it is evenly spread. And it will leave you guessing, wondering like who's going to be the big winner. Will the Annies have a particular favorite this year that they will go and give like a lot of them? Or is it going to be a year where it's like just like the nominations, it could be evenly spread out, where there's going to be some that will get a few, some that will get some, and maybe the winner will only receive like 4 or 5 wins overall. Who knows? It is actually a pretty nice change of pace compared to like some of the previous years. But one thing I will state though that is actually pretty intriguing when looking at the entire list, what is kind of fascinating is the fact that while we do see like a good array of many different animated features that get a nomination, and on top of that, I would also like to add as well that there are a few that only did get one nomination as well. There was one movie called Away that did get a nomination for Best Music. Just want to see if there's like other ones as well. I know that there is one for Best Voice Acting, I believe. Yes, for Best Voice Acting in a Feature, it's Richard Horvitz is nominated for Invader Zim Enter the Florpus. And you do see that, yeah, like you do see a little bit of a mix right over here. But what is actually very intriguing to note is that there's actually a lot of mainstream animated films this year that actually did not receive a nomination. Now, it is quite common that sometimes there will be animated films that the Annies are not necessarily going to give attention to, or not even give a single Annie nomination, like completely ignore it from that particular year of the Annies. It has happened before, but what is irregular this year is that there has been a lot more than usual. Now, of course, there have been some that are just so awful that they do not deserve a single nomination. Like, we haven't seen a nomination from Arctic Dogs or from Playmobil the movie, which, okay, that's great. They do not deserve it anyway, so we can leave it at that. That's nice. But what's also very interesting is that there are plenty of others that didn't receive a nomination where, even if they're not great movies themselves, like, there is some effort at least put onto the animation. And I'm talking about movies like Ugly Dolls didn't get a nomination, and neither did Wonder Park. But what's even more surprising is that there are two standout animated features, two standout animated sequels that didn't even receive a single nomination, which a lot of people could debate could be some of the biggest snubs this year from this year's Annies. And what I'm talking about, and I don't know if you have noticed, but if you look at the entire list, not even once did the Angry Birds Movie 2 get a nomination, and neither did the Lego Movie 2. Which is kind of surprising because, yeah, I will agree, they're not necessarily great animated films. Like, I wouldn't necessarily say, like, they're some of the best animated features that we have received this year. And I mean, like, at worst, they could be just forgettable sequels to, like, whatever original film that they have, whatever. But, like, I am kind of shocked, especially from the fact that you know that there is some great technical achievements that have been done, at least with the animation. And I am kind of shocked to find that not a single one is in here. Now, I know that there are some little snubs here and there, and there are some that I do agree. Like, one that I feel like is a big personal snub for me is in the Best Director category, if I can go and find it. Best Director for a movie, where the nominees in there are Frozen 2, I Lost My Body, Klaus, Missing Link, and Weathering With You. For me, what I feel like is a major snub here is they didn't nominate Josh Cooley for Toy Story 4. I think the guy did such a phenomenal job with handling Toy Story 4, and it really is unfortunate that he didn't get a nomination. I feel like he has a great future as a director at Pixar, and I mean, not acknowledging his effort onto Toy Story 4, I think it is a little bit of a disappointment. I mean, sure, Toy Story 4 did get 6 nominations, including Best Feature, but for me, that feels like a personal snub because I really do admire what Josh Cooley has done for Toy Story 4. But what is a bigger snub, apparently, is that the Angry Birds Movie 2 and the Lego Movie 2 is completely left out in there. You know, like, not even once do they even acknowledge a single nomination. But I think I can see why. And I think it's mainly because those two are, like, major sacrifices to make room for some of the other movies. More specifically, the ones on Netflix and also the ones that are independent. Because if you have seen from the list of the repeated nominations, like you got Klaus, which took a big chunk of it with 7 nominations in total, and then you also got the indie films like I Lost My Body and Weathering With You, which both of them combined took a total of 10 nominations, and you see them on repeat in several places. Like, I'll just go and pick a random one, for example, like even for best, like best character animation, like you'll find that there is Klaus, or even, like best special effects for a feature, like you got Weathering With You in there. Then I'll just go and pick, best writing, where you got both I Lost My Body and Weathering With You. And then, like, even just going up a bit, like, best storyboarding. Like, you got some people that are on repeat in one category. Like, I Lost My Body got 2 nominations here. You got Klaus with 1 nomination. Sorry, getting a little bit excited with this. And then you also got Missing Link with 2 nominations. And that's also another major thing to note, is that also technically you could say Missing Link also grabbed a grand majority of these nominations with its 8 nominations. So it pretty much leaves very little room for either the Lego Movie 2 or the Angry Birds Movie 2. So there are some of those surprises, there are a little bit of those snubs as well, but overall it is a very fascinating list. Now, if you're going to ask me, which one do I think is going to be the big winner? Like, which one do I think is going to take home Best Feature and the most Annie Awards at the end? Well, if I could be extremely honest with you, I have no clue. Now, I do have a little bit more confidence to believe that I Lost My Body is going to be a big winner for Best Independent Feature, but when it comes to Best Feature in general, I really don't know, because when it comes to the Annies, I think the big thing to know is that it really, really does depend if they have a bias for one particular movie, because that would be the one thing that I do have criticism towards the Annie Awards, is that in recent years, while they have significantly improved from the previous years, especially from that big scandal with the How to Train Your Dragon controversy, yeah, like, it's a great film, but if you're gonna give all the awards to them and not even acknowledge other films that have been released that year, like Tangled, Toy Story 3, or Despicable Me, Megamind, or whatever, you know something is up. You know something is a little bit rigged there. But anyways, yeah, they have improved from there. But you can notice that there is a little bit of a bias that they would, that you know that they would have a particular favorite. Like, when they would see that if there's one movie that is nominated in a specific category, they would immediately give it to them. And we have seen it, and that's why there have been a few movies this year where they would end up collecting a strangely significant amount of Annie Awards. We saw it back with Inside Out, getting almost every single one of them. We got Coco, that got pretty much every single one of them. And then even last year with Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, yeah, it only got nominated for 7 Annie Awards, but it ended up winning every single one of those Annie Awards. So you can tell that the Annies might have a little bit of a bias. So you never know if, like, let's say for example, this year they got a total bias for Missing Link. So whatever categories would have Missing Link nominated, then it would immediately go to them. So that could be a very strong possibility that they would go towards that. However, I would like to add as well that if they do have a bias, if they do have a favorite this year, that doesn't necessarily have to be the one that got the most nominations. Like, it is possible that it might not be either Frozen 2 or Missing Link. They could go with either like Toy Story 4 or Klaus or How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World. And last year is actually a great example of it. If you look at it, of course, the big winner was Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. But that movie only had 7 nominations in there. It may have won all of its 7 nominations, but it didn't collect the most nominations during that year. That would actually be Incredibles 2 and Ralph Breaks the Internet. I don't think they're tied, but I know that they both had a lot more nominations than Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I believe, you could correct me if I'm wrong on this, but if I remember correctly, Incredibles 2 ended up getting a total of 12 nominations, while Ralph Breaks the Internet ended up with 10 nominations, where Spider-Verse ended up going to, it ended up going to win, like, the most of it. And then Incredibles 2 and Ralph Breaks the Internet, it did end up getting some of its own Annie Awards. So my point is that you never know which one that the Annie Awards might have a specific bias. Maybe Toy Story 3 could be the big winner and it will win all 6 of its nominations, while handing out a few awards here and there to movies like Missing Link, or maybe giving it to Frozen 2, or maybe giving it to whomever, who knows. But basically the whole point here though is to go and highlight many of the nominations and to go and showcase who are the ones that actually did get acknowledged this year at the Annie Awards. So with all that said and done, I would like to say congratulations to everyone who has received a nomination at this year's Annie Awards. It's great to see that your hard work is really paying off even more than the final result of the movie itself. And if you guys are curious of when the show is going to be commencing, I believe it's going to be coming very soon, actually. In fact, if you go into the Annie Awards, website, they actually do have a countdown, and it is going to be pretty soon, in in less than 2 months, actually. It will be out on, it will be happening on Saturday, January 25th, 2020. So, with all that said, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I would like to ask you guys, what do you all think of the nominees at this year's Annie Awards? Are you guys happy about the new list of nominations? Are there some that you're hoping for that would win? Do you feel like there might be some major snubs? Let me know what you all think about these nominations in particular. Okay, let's see now. Alright, we got some. Alright, it says here, I think either Toy Story 4 or Frozen 2 should get Best Feature. I've only seen the former, and it really was that good. As for Best Character Design, I wasn't surprised that DC Superhero Girls got nominated. I'm counting on the show to win that award because I love the show as much as My Little Pony, and I wish Lauren Faust the best of luck with that show. Anyways, good luck Toy Story 4 and Frozen 2 on your Annie nominations. Okay, that's nice. Let's see. Yeah, it's awards time! Man, if I could troll the awards show, I would want Toy Story 4 to win Best Animated Feature. I'm glad the Annie Awards is acknowledging forgotten shows like Tuca and Birdie and Missing Link, and recognizing how great they are. I wish Primal got nominated for an Annie, since it's a great show and deserves more recognition. Award shows should have the best for the decade. Well, I mean, that is kind of debatable for the shows themselves regarding if they want to do like a best of decade. But, oh my god, yeah, you do bring up a good point. That is another surprise that is actually not nominated. Nowhere once did Primal even get a nomination. I'm surprised as to why. Like, technically you could say, like, oh, well, maybe it's just like a mini-series or stuff like that. Well, technically, Infinity Train did get a few nominations. So, I don't know. I'm actually kind of shocked that, yeah, it's true. Not even once do we find a single nomination for Primal, actually. Oh, and if you guys are curious, then I could give you also the nominations for Best Character Animation for a live-action movie, and also Best Character Animation for a video game. Now, if you guys are curious for that, the nominees for Best Character Animation in a live-action feature, it includes Alita Battle Angel, Avengers Endgame, Game of Thrones Season 8 Episode 3, The Long Night, Dance of the Dragons, Pokemon, Detective Pikachu, and Spider-Man Far From Home. Meanwhile, Best Character Animation for video games include Gear 5, Cinematic Animation, Kingdom Hearts 3, Sinclair Snake, Museum Mischief, and Unruly Heroes. So that's just a little extra side note for you all. Alright, let's see now. These are good nominations, but I feel Steven Universe could have gotten more nominations because this year it was its biggest year with its movie. Something similar could be said about the same thing with the Lego Movie 2. You do bring up a good point. I mean, as I stated before, there are plenty that have not been recognized. So it's not, it's not just Angry Birds Movie 2 and Lego Movie 2, but even like some, like, I believe Steven Universe did get some recognition. Maybe not that much, but maybe just a little bit. And I actually do notice right now that one that seems to be very prominent, I see a lot of nominations for Carmen Sandiego. Or did Steven Universe get a nomination? Oh crap, probably not. Oh wow, I'm actually kind of surprised actually. Anyways, going back to what I'm talking about, but there have been a lot, like even like Steven Universe with Primal and all that stuff, that like there have been plenty that didn't get much of a nomination or much recognition. Okay, let's see now. My picks for winners: How to Train Your Dragon 3 for Best Feature, SpongeBob's Birthday Special SpongeBob's Birthday for his Best Special Production, Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for Best Children TV, BoJack Horseman for Best General Audience, Frozen 2 for... Oh boy, okay, so... yeah, you got like a whole list there. Alright, anyways, let's just... if you ask me what film should be the big winner, it's gonna be Klaus. There's no competition. It's just a spectacular movie. Also, regarding the snubs, you forgot one for Best Short category, Hair Love. Oh, that is true, yeah, because, for Best Short, they only got Acid Rain, Don't Know What, Je sors acheter des cigarettes, Purple Boy, and Uncle Thomas... accounting for the days. Oh, that is a very good point. Yeah, that is honestly very unfortunate that they didn't recognize Hair Love. Hair Love, I if you guys know me, then you know that I adore frickin' Hair Love. In fact, like, it did happen a few times when, like, there are some people talking about, like, the Angry Birds Movie 2, and they were like, yeah, that's a surprisingly good film. And I'm just on the side, though. It's like, yeah, it's nice, it's great and all. But Hair Love, though! No, I love that short, and yeah, you do bring up a good point. That is kind of unfortunate, but I am hoping that Hair Love could get some bigger recognition, hopefully, like, at the Oscars. I am hoping so much that it gets an Oscar nomination, or at least an Oscar nomination. Oh my god, that thing is so freaking heartfelt. I'm going to go and read one more comment before we're going to go and jump onto our next story. So, hold on, let me just see, who do we got? Alright, I'll go with this one. For my thoughts on the Annies, I'm actually kind of surprised at some of them. Most namely, Klaus and Missing Link. For Klaus, I figured it wasn't to be a big competitor this year since it was on Netflix, but I watched the movie myself, and I won't spoil it for you, but let's just say it made me ugly cry. Oh my god, yes. As for Missing Link, that's the most shocking. I mean, come on. I expected it not to be that big, because when's the last time a stop-motion movie got that many nominations? You do got a very good point, but, honestly, I feel very happy for Missing Link. Sure, it may not be one of the best animated features of the year, but it definitely was a really good movie. Like, I actually did go as far as actually getting, I went and got the Blu-ray myself. I highly enjoyed that film. And I did know that one day, yeah, sure, at the box office, it was a disaster. Like, nobody went to see it except for, me and maybe a handful of others. But I knew that there would be a day that would come where the popularity that it deserved would come. And hopefully, with the award season, that could be a major helper. And I mean, so far, among the animation community, I'm sure, with the Annie Awards, this is going to be a big boost for Missing Link. Oh, and one more quick thing. This is going to be a bit of a spoiler for next episode, but I do believe coming next week, it will actually be the nominations for the Golden Globes. So stay tuned for that, as we are going to be discussing more awards in the following episodes of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. So, with that said, though, it is now time that we are going to give a bit of a break for awards, and now we're gonna go and jump on to our next story. And with this one, we actually got a pretty epic trailer for you all. Now, this is gonna be for an upcoming movie in 2020, not necessarily animated, but it is based on something animated, or somewhat based. And if you know what I mean, of course, it is time that we are gonna be checking out the trailer for Disney's live-action remake of Mulan. So with that said, let's go and check this one out.
Do you know why the phoenix sits on the right hand of the emperor? She is his guardian, his protector. That she's both beautiful and strong. Your job is to bring honor to the family. Do you think you can do that?
Citizens, we are under attack from northern invaders.
Their leader calls himself Ori Khan.
Fights alongside a witch.
No survivors. By edict of His Imperial Majesty, every family must contribute one man to fight.
Have you no son?
I am blessed with 2 daughters. I will fight.
We must be strong. This time he will not return. Loyal, brave, and true. It is my duty to protect my family.
Ancestors, please protect her.
What is your name, soldier?
Hua Jun, Commander, son of Hua Zhou.
We're going to make men out of every single one of you. Close the gate!
The spirit is evident, but something holds you back.
When they find out who you are, they will show you no mercy. I'm Hua Mulan. I will bring honor to us all.
Well then. Well then. Hold on, let me just put it at the, there we go. Just put it at the title. You know, the first thing that I want to say is that I don't know if Disney would ever do this, but I would love one day that they would compile a whole soundtrack with nothing but trailer music. Because so far, I do see a little bit of a theme going on where whenever they would go and release a trailer for one of their upcoming live action remakes, they will always make some kind of like big, epic version of one of their classic songs. Which in this case here, we heard a massively epic version of Reflections. And if they could ever compile that onto on a soundtrack, that would be great. You know, like looking back, they do that all the time. Like you got Friend Like Me for the Aladdin trailer. They did this grand epic version of Once Upon a Dream for Maleficent. I remember they also did another one for Bare Necessities for the live action remake of The Jungle Book. So if Disney could ever do that, I would be so freaking down to get that, because I love hearing these trailer musics. They're always great. They may be short, but oh my god, like when they pack a punch, they pack a freaking punch. But I am not here to talk about the music. I am here to talk about the trailer that I've seen. And I am not gonna lie, this trailer here, sweet merciful Neptune, this is another one that really really does pack a punch. And hold on, I just need to make a quick refresh just to have a little bit of an update. This will be helpful for later. But, oh my god. This is one of those things that, finally, this is what I've been looking for in terms of a live-action remake. Because, considering that we just went through 2019, and in 2019, we just went through so many of these live-action remakes. Like, we went through Dumbo, we went through Aladdin, we went through The Lion King. Ooh, excuse me. And technically, we did go through Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, and yes, also on Disney Plus, there is The Lady and the Tramp live-action remake. And this one is offering us something that isn't like many of those ones, where, or, well, maybe with the exception of Dumbo, but I will get to that one later. But so far, from what I'm seeing, is that they are promising that this is not gonna be like the animated film. It's not gonna be like a shot-for-shot remake. They're not gonna be copying like 98% of the whole feature. It looks like it really does want to be its own thing. And that was a problem with many of these live-action remakes, is that they don't really feel much like their own property. They don't really feel like their own thing. They just feel like they just want to be a big budget blockbuster version of what we've already had before. And this one, it looks something that's a little bit unique. In fact, what it really does remind me the most is the fact that this really does remind me a lot like the live action remake of The Jungle Book, where we do see some familiar elements coming from the animated feature that we all know and love. Of course, Disney will make sure it will stay true to that. But at the same time, we also do see a little bit of elements that are based on the original fable of The Legend of Hua Mulan. Now, they're like, yeah, it is a little bit like the Disney live action, it is like the Disney movie, but not entirely. It's not beat by beat, and we're not seeing the same, we're not seeing all the same characters. And on top of that, we also do see some elements that are based on its own thing. So it does look like it's combining all these different elements for the sake of having its own identity. Now, I know that some people could say, well, technically, the remake of Dumbo has also done that as well. What makes this one more unique, and what makes this one more interesting than what's been done with Dumbo? Well, the thing is that with this one, it is promising us a more epic war movie where action is gonna be the name of the game in this. I will say that they might share a little bit of clues that we might see some comedic moments, like the little training that we see over here. Like, that looks like it could be a bit of a comedic moment, but they didn't really emphasize that in here. Just like with the advertising and the trailers of Frozen 2, the main focus is the action to really present this as this major event feature. And with all the action that they are displaying, and all the and even some fantasy elements as well, it does look like that it that's kind of the big thing that it wants to present, that we are going to see some epic action, and we are going to go see Mulan save China. And with Dumbo, on the other hand, if I could really remember much of the trailers, they weren't really that convincing. Like, they were trying to advertise some of the cuteness of Dumbo along with many of the other celebrities. But in here, it's not about the celebrities. It's not about the main character being cute or whatever. This is about the action. This is about seeing a girl saving an entire freaking country. So that really does make it stand out. And also, there is one little side note that I would like to add that, I don't know, I'm starting to see a little bit of a theme when it comes to these live action remakes. I don't know, I just need to back that up. Yeah, okay, it's right over here. It's the villain, which I guess now his name is like Beauregard or something. No, it's not Beauregard. Yeah, the new villain of Mulan is the janitor from the Muppet Show. No, it's not Beauregard. It's like Beauregard or something. Just need to get back.
Leader calls himself Khan.
Khan, okay. I think that is something really important that I need to remember. There's a big difference between Khan and then Beauregard.
Fights alongside a witch.
No survivors.
Yeah, this girl right over here. Okay. Now, this is a unique element that they did add in, you know, to make because a lot of people did say one of the weakest elements from the animated Mulan movie is Shan Yu. So it looks like they are updating significantly the villain, which now his name is Khan, and now he has this witch, which it is confirmed, by the way, is actually the villain's falcon. So in a way, they are staying true to Shan Yu, but the falcon apparently does play a role in this, a bigger role, where now it's actually a witch. It's actually a person in a sense, which honestly, I find that to be a little bit strange, because now I feel like we're noticing a little bit of a theme when it comes to these Disney live action remakes. When the villain has a pet bird, they cannot stay as a pet bird. They always gotta transform into something. Like, you got Maleficent, whose Raven is turned into this hunky assistant. And then, like, even in Aladdin, in the live action remake of Aladdin, yeah, sure, for the most part, Iago is just on the side, just like looking at everyone else going, very interesting. But then, like, you got that ending bit where, like, Iago turns into a freaking giant. Yeah, he still stays as a bird, but he's not staying as a pet for the villain. And it's the same thing right over here. The villain's falcon is not just a falcon. It is also a witch. Like, you also got to get into that. But I do feel like things are going to get pretty interesting with that. And also, on a side note, I'm sure a lot of people are going to point that out, but it looks like we're not going to get Mushu at all. Or not even, like, well, there's no signs of Creaky anywhere, but definitely no signs of Mushu. But there is one little element, if I could find it. I do believe, is it right over here? Yeah. There is one sign, and this has been long rumored for a while, that there is a possibility that maybe Mushu will be in here, but not necessarily as Mushu, but instead...
Ancestors, please.
That apparently Mushu might actually be a phoenix in this, especially when right at the beginning, like, you got who I believe is Mushu's dad, talking about the phoenix and how it's like, you know, why it is on the side of the emperor, you know, making all that entire speech. Which really does make sense, considering that Disney is primarily making this for a Chinese audience, and it is set in China, and the phoenix in China is actually a very popular mythical creature. Like, the phoenix to the Chinese is a lot like the fairy to North Americans, or for Western culture in general. So that's kind of the big thing to go and emphasize for those who are interested regarding whatever happened to Mushu, and if there would be a Mushu. I would say, like, most likely not, but maybe there could be, and it's just Mushu is going to be coming in as a phoenix. I mean, I guess it would be a little bit of a fair trade, because Khan now has a witch that is a falcon, and I guess Mulan's guidance is going to be a phoenix, which could be fitting, you know, like, birds actually do play a symbolic role for the Mulan movie. But overall, I will say, this has definitely piqued my interest. This does look very fascinating. The trailer really does seem pretty effective to promise me not only an epic, action-packed feature, but also we're gonna get a Mulan movie that's not just a copy of the animated feature, that we're gonna get something, like I said before, that will be a little bit more like the animated, that will be a little bit more like the live-action Jungle Book remake, where it will mix elements of the animated film, of the original source material, and maybe a little bit of its own thing as well. So it will be fascinating to see how that will go. However, I am not done yet to discuss about Mulan, because there is one thing that it is kind of unavoidable to discuss about, and it really is a bit like the elephant in the room when it comes to the subject of the live-action remake of Mulan in general. And unfortunately, yes, we will get a little bit political. I hate being political here. Oh, who the fridge am I kidding? I love being freaking political. Oh my god, that's probably the biggest lie that you will ever hear in this podcast. Okay, but anyways, sorry about that. Yes, we do have to get a little bit political in this because we do have to talk about the Hong Kong protests. Now, maybe you guys have heard about the Hong Kong protests this year because it is definitely one of the most insane events that we have heard throughout 2019 happening, and as the year progressed, it's just been getting crazier and crazier regarding what's been happening with Hong Kong and how they're fighting off the Chinese government. But the thing that you might be wondering is, what does that have to do with this movie in particular? Well, you may remember earlier this year, I think sometime during the summer, or like in the early summer, the star of the movie, the one who is playing Mulan, which I believe, if I can remember her name, who is it? I think they got, Liu Yifei Liu, or Liu Yifei. Anyways, the star of Mulan, she did express her thoughts on the Hong Kong protests, and she stated that she showed her support not for the protesters, but for the police against the protesters. And that actually received some serious backlash, not just from the Hong Kong people, but also from the rest of the world as well. But since then, the Chinese government did pay attention to that, did actually notice about it, and they saw that there now is a connection to that Hong Kong controversy with the Mulan movie. And since then, the Chinese government has used this as a political weapon. And even to this day, even when this trailer was released, the Chinese government tried to be slick about it, and they tried to release some bots. Like, there have been reports that they did release some bots to go and further connect this with the Hong Kong protesters by kind of making Mulan a little bit of a symbol of being against the Hong Kong protesters, like to pretty much make Mulan an anti-Hong Kong symbol. And reportedly they put out some bots where they would have like these fake accounts that would speak out and release these anti-Hong Kong comments all over social media, not just on their social media, but on Western social media as well, like on Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff. And from there, unfortunately, it does make, as I said before, it does make Mulan a lot more linked than it's meant to be regarding this controversy. It ended up being connected to politics so much, and you could see a little bit of backlash from the movie itself. If you do look, this is the YouTube channel of Walt Disney Studios and their official video of Disney's Mulan, and while it did receive a grand majority of likes with over 209,000 likes, there was also a significant backlash, which it's not necessarily from the trailer itself, but definitely from the politics of it, where there's, as I'm recording this, there's about 54.5 thousand dislikes onto this video. And unfortunately, it's because of that where I feel like the 2020 Mulan, I feel like it could be the next 2016 Ghostbusters, where it's going to be a lot more, where the movie itself will end up becoming a lot more political than it was ever meant to be. I am confident that Disney did not make this for the purpose of being an anti-Hong Kong movie, but people will treat it that way. Now, it's not necessarily going to be as serious as the 2016 Ghostbusters, because there is a big difference between how much people are really going to care about the controversies that are forever linked to those movies, rather it be with the Hong Kong protests with Mulan, or the subject of feminism in entertainment with the 2016 Ghostbusters. But the point is that this move, I do feel a little bit sorry for Disney, because now their movie has, how can I put this, inadvertently, I think that's the term I'm looking for, unintentionally, it ended up being linked to a massively political controversy, and it could end up becoming a little bit more of a burden to the feature film itself, considering that some people may view this as an anti-Hong Kong movie, especially when the star herself, the one playing as Mulan, is openly anti-Hong Kong. And I don't know if she has apologized for it since. I don't know if she ever changed her mind on it. I haven't heard anything from Liu Yifei since that controversy, but it is something that is worth actually bringing up, and that could actually play a big factor onto how some people would view this movie in particular. But with that said, if any of you are actually interested in checking out this version of Mulan that's coming out in 2020, I do believe they did put up a release date. Well, not necessarily. I do believe it's going to be somewhere at the end of March. It states it's going to be March 2020, so you guys can correct me about this, but I do believe it will be somewhere close, like the 25th or 29th or something like that. I'm not 100% sure. Oh, March 27th. There we go. So on March 27th, 2020, that is going to be when the Mulan live action remake is going to be released. So, with that said, I would like to go into the chat wall, and now it is going to be your turn to go and express your thoughts on this trailer of Mulan. Do you guys think this is a great trailer? Did this make you want to go and check this movie out? Are the politics of the Hong Kong protests more of a concern for you? Will that affect how you will view this movie? Let me know what you all think. Let's see now. I was skeptical for this regarding reshoots and Liu Yifei's controversy, but this actually looks alright. The I make a man out of you reference was kind of forced, and Liu Yifei's performance isn't selling me so far, but the action is really cool, and I'll give props to differentiating itself from the original, but no matter how it turns out, it will never be as bad as Mulan 2. Okay, you know what? Honestly, I might have to disagree with you a little bit on that. Yes, I can understand that there are some parts where it does feel like it's a bit cheesy and a little bit forced, like this part over here, like this one.
Son of Huazhou. We're going to make men out of every single one of you.
Like this one, honestly, I don't really mind that much. Like, yeah, it does seem like a forced throwback to the animated film, but then again, I do feel like it's a much better job than the teaser trailer. You might remember the teaser trailer that was released where Mulan just decided to sit down and it's like, I will bring honor to us all. Like, that thing was hilariously bad. So at the very least, like, making references to the animated film, they did do a much better job here than they did in the previous trailer. So I just need to bring that up there. Okay, let's see now. I previously had some doubts on Crouching Tiger, Hidden Mushu, but this trailer finally shows promise. This could be one of the better live-action Disney adaptations. This actually is allowed to be something unique and not exclusively shackled from the sake of, hey, remember this. This is what I might support. Hopefully Disney can avoid being accused of bootlicking Chinese investors like what happened with Blizzard. Yeah, I think honestly eventually as time will move on, I feel like Disney will have to go and address this. And I mean, considering that they are a multi-billion-dollar corporation, I'm not going to expect Disney to fully, to fully back off from China, or they will say like, oh, we support the Hong Kong protesters, because let's be honest, the harsh reality is that I don't think any major company is ever going to go and do that. They will still be a little bit on the side of China in order to make a big amount of their profits. But I do hope one day Disney will kind of address this. I do hope that something will be brought up about about this controversy, because this is not necessarily something that they can sweep under the rug. And as I said before, with the Hong Kong protest controversy, the more that it's going to appear, the more, well, as time will move on, the more insane it shall be. And who knows how insane it is going to be in the future. So inevitably, considering that this is kind of forever linked to that controversy right there, Disney will have to go and address it one way or another, so that, it's not like because honestly, it could end up becoming a situation where being quiet about it would be worse than to say something. Let's see. I always kept asking that remakes need different than original, because if you're not going to make it different, then what's the point? Although I have to say, I'm confused to adding a sexy bird witch. And also Mulan fighting Khan. She is fighting Khan! And also, Matt, do you think that the bird witch looks pretty hot? I think someone is attracted to Bora Khan's falcon. Hold on, I never thought of that, actually. I don't know, that never did cross my mind, but I guess. Yeah, she's pretty good. I mean, like, yeah, she is kind of like, she is an evil witch, so, I mean, personality-wise, like, I would have to massively press X to doubt, but I mean, she's pretty attractive. I'll give you that, I guess. I never thought I would get that question, it was like, but like, she is hot, the witch. Pretty hot, though. I never expect that kind of question. But yeah, I guess, like, she's pretty cute. I will give her that, I guess. For a witch that turns into a falcon, she does have some good looks on her. I guess. Okay, anyways, let's see now. Oh, someone's going furry alert. No, this is not a furry alert. I mean, like, yeah, maybe if it's like halfway, if she has a beak, then maybe you could put on the furry alert, but this, not really. Anyways, you can either be like Liu Yifei, who feels like she submits to the Chinese government, or you could be like Matt Stone and Trey Parker, who pretty much tells the Chinese government, screw you guys, we're going to keep our integrity. Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, especially as time moves on, it really does seem like Trey Parker and Matt Stone seem to be looking better and better and better and better. Like, honestly, I highly do respect what they have done with that episode. It's like, I look back at it, and the more I feel like, you know what? Yeah, no, that's a great episode. Like, they really did a great job with that. It's nice to see South Park really picking up, like, really growing better, like, as time moves on. Like, it's like, what, now, like, more than 20 years old or something with South Park, and it's like, yeah, now it's still being relevant, and it's still being relevant in a good way like that, so, you gotta give major props to them for that. Let's see now. I find this trailer better than the other trailer. I do like an epic version of Reflection, which gives me more interest in seeing this film. I do like the action elements, visuals, and Liu Yifei's performance, despite the controversy she was involved, and I overall think this movie will be good. I do wonder if this will do well in China in terms of the box office, due to having a $300 million budget and a political controversy, because they play a big factor in their censor controversy. Well, I don't think, like, considering that I think with this movie, Disney's prime audience is going to be the Chinese, so I think, they have played around the censor bar, pretty well. Like, they obeyed the censor rules of China, and I think they went all right with that. Yeah, honestly, in terms of how it will do at the box office, they better be successful with a $300 million price tag. Hopefully it will not be like with Abominable, because the fate of DreamWorks Abominable, it really is ironic. Like, yeah, it did you could argue that it did decently in North America, but ironically enough, considering that it is a movie that is made in China and made primarily for Chinese audiences, it's actually a serious flop in China. I kid you not. Alright, so I'm going to read one more comment and then we're going to move on from there. Let's see. I feel like the movie will be up there with The Jungle Book. I have seen every live-action remake, and Jungle Book is #1, but the Mulan remake might be #1, but with the controversy, this will be weird. And I'm not gonna lie, dude, I am completely on your side with that. I totally understand. Okay, now, considering that we do have the Mulan trailer done, it is now time that we are going to go and jump onto another live-action remake. But this is one that actually has been released. And what I'm going to be talking about is going to be regarding the Disney live-action remake of Aladdin. And with that one, now, you could say whatever you want about the movie. For me, I would say that it's alright. It's okay, I guess. You know, it's pretty decent. You know, definitely subpar to the original. I think there's no question about that. But, you know, it does have its few standout moments. And, I mean, there are a few actors that have done pretty well. Especially with Will Smith, with Naomi Scott. But then there's Mena Massoud. Now, Mena Massoud did pretty well in his performance as Aladdin. But it seems that even if he was the starring role of a very successful movie like the live-action remake of Aladdin, he didn't necessarily get much of a future. He didn't really benefit all that much from that. Apparently, when Mena Massoud had a little bit of a chat with the Daily Beast, he pretty much broke down a little bit, and he pretty much confessed that ever since the release of the live-action Aladdin remake, Mena Massoud... Ooh, excuse me, but what was I saying? Ah, yes, right. The thing is with Mena Massoud is that ever since the release of Aladdin, he has not received a single audition. Not a job, not a part, but couldn't even get an audition. He stated, reading from my source here in the Collider, "I'm kind of tired of staying quiet about it. I want people to know that it's not always dandelions and roses when you're doing something like Aladdin. He must have made millions. He must be getting all these offers. It's none of those things. I haven't had a single audition since Aladdin came out." And from there, it did circulate around social media, and it is a major news that people have been talking about. And, like, some people debate that it could be a little bit of a race issue. Some people could say that, you know, maybe it's just Mena Massoud himself. Maybe he just had a bad agent. Or, you know, there have been several theories onto why is it that Mena Massoud has yet to have gotten a part. And for some people, it might be extremely surprising of the fact that Mena Massoud has yet to have gotten an audition ever since Aladdin. Because the thing is, you look at Aladdin, it seems like a major hit. It looks like something that could really launch someone's career. Because we are talking about a live-action remake of a Disney animated classic. And not just that, but in itself is a big budget blockbuster. And on top of that, it was a major hit. It ended up making more than $1 billion at the box office. And in the case of Mena Massoud, that guy ended up getting not just the lead role, but the title role. He literally was Aladdin. So how is it that this guy didn't get a part or didn't even get an audition ever since then? Well, honestly, when you do think about the movie itself, when you do look at the movie itself, it might be a little bit understandable in the position of Mena Massoud. Because, let's think about it. Obviously, the name Mena Massoud is not really that popular. You know, it's not going to be the name that's going to be selling tickets. That one is going to be Will Smith. Like, a big majority of people that wanted to see the live-action remake of Aladdin is mainly because they want to see how Will Smith is as the genie, to see how he's gonna go and follow the footsteps in his own way, you know, to follow in the same steps as Robin Williams. That's why a lot of people really wanted to go see Aladdin, because they wanted to see how he is as the genie. And on Will Smith's side, he actually did pretty well. So, okay, would that mean that Mena Massoud would be the standout performance? Would he be the breakthrough performance, that this would be the one that would launch his career? No, because there is already someone who is getting a lot of that attention as the breakthrough star of this, and that would be Naomi Scott's performance as Jasmine. One of the most praised things from that movie is Naomi Scott's performance, how she was singing, how she was dancing, and how she was acting as Princess Jasmine, and especially compared to some of the train wrecks of past Disney princesses in live action remakes. Like, after going through the abysmal performances of Emma Watson and Elle Fanning, having Naomi Scott really is a breath of fresh air and bringing new and really refreshing life onto Princess Jasmine. Not to say that Princess Jasmine before was awful, but Naomi Scott provided a role that really did honor what many people did admire from Jasmine in the animated film. So Naomi Scott already covered the breakthrough performance. Alright, so would that mean that Mena Massoud is the worst actor of all this? It's just his acting pretty much sucks compared to everyone else? Not even. Because the standout worst performance, I already forgot his name, but it would be the guy who played Jafar, because one of the weakest things and often the most criticized element of the live-action remake of Aladdin is regarding the position of Jafar and the role of Jafar, how it is a massive downgrade compared to the original, especially with the actor's monotone voice just walking around going like, "Hello, Aladdin, you need to go and bring me the lamp. You may not bow to a sultan, but you will definitely bow down to a powerful sorcerer. Genie, for my second wish, I wish to be the most powerful sorcerer in the world." You know, like, constantly like that throughout the movie. And it does get annoying, and it is pretty embarrassing that you would go from, like, one of the most remembered Disney villains ever to just that. So, with all that said, where does that leave Mena Massoud? Where does that leave him? Well, compared to everyone else, the thing is with Mena Massoud is just that he's alright. He's okay. You know, not necessarily great, not necessarily a standout performance, but, not terrible. He did pretty well. He's okay. It's just that's exactly the problem, though, is that he's just okay. There are so many things, however, that are much more of a standout component, much more than Mena Massoud. It's like because unfortunately the thing is, it might sound mean, but truthfully, Mena Massoud's performance as Aladdin is one of the least interesting things to talk about in terms of the live action remake of Aladdin. Like, he did his job well, and that's pretty much all there is to it. Nothing really special to talk about. Nothing else to really go through with his performance. So that does, unfortunately, really play a factor in this. It's kind of ironic in a sense that, considering that he did get the lead, he did get the title role, but he's not the most interesting thing to really discuss when it comes to the live action remake of Aladdin. When something, when you do have a little bit of bad luck when Aladdin is not the most interesting thing about Aladdin. And on top of that, what also does play another big factor when it comes to the movie itself is that we are talking about a Disney live action remake. And even though they could be major successes at the box office, and I'm sure for Mena Massoud, it is beautiful to have in your resume that you were the lead in a billion-dollar movie. But the problem with Disney live-action remakes is that their lifespan of relevancy is very, very short. They become obsolete. People just do not care about them as quick as they would be popular on the big screen. Because the thing with the live-action remake of Aladdin is that it had its time on the big screen, it happened, People quickly moved on afterwards, and by the time the live-action remake of The Lion King came out 2 months later, everyone has pretty much forgotten about Aladdin. People pretty much moved on, people didn't necessarily care about the live-action remake, and whenever you would talk about Disney's Aladdin, the first thing you would immediately think of is going to be the animated film. So that's kind of the thing that's both a blessing and a curse to be the star of a Disney live-action remake. And in this case of Aladdin, it's unfortunately understandable as to how, even with a big movie like Aladdin, that it's not that much of a help for his career. And the sad thing about all this, the sad thing with what's been happening with Mena Massoud, is that this is honestly something that I completely understand. This is honestly very common that a lot of actors have to unfortunately go through. Like, sure, when we would talk about an actor's life, we always love to focus on the major success stories. We always love to talk about the best of the best. We always love to get into the stories of Will Smith or Naomi Scott. But then there is the side of Mena Massoud that not many people talk about, but a lot of people should be talking about, regarding the struggles of trying to be an actor. And even if you thought that at one point you have made it, then, following afterwards, it turns out that it's just one lucky shot, that you're incapable of trying to make lightning strike twice. And honestly, as an actor myself, as someone trying to build up a career into voice acting, I completely understand. Because when you're going into an acting business, rather it be for on camera, rather it be for the stage, or rather it be just through voice acting, from there, you will have your major ups and downs when you're trying to go and establish a career into acting. You will have those days that are going to be fantastic, where you're going to get a whole load of auditions coming right at you, where you're going to get so many different auditions, you feel like a major king, you feel great, you feel absolutely wanted, and even when you do those auditions, there might be some where you're actually going to nail the part, you're going to get the job at it, and you feel great, you feel like your life is all set, and your road to becoming an actor is closer than you can ever imagine. But at the same time, you're also going to have those times when the demand is going to be bone dry. And it's going to be week after week after week where you're going to hear nothing about it. Where it's not just not getting a job that's going to be an issue, but even just trying to get an audition feels massively difficult. And even just suddenly getting an audition, you would feel like it's such a total blessing. So from there, at that point, you're going to end up having a bit of self-doubt. You're going to have a bit of a reflection upon yourself. That's when, all the dark thoughts are going to be circling into your head. A lot of people don't talk about that aspect of being an actor, and I completely understand that. I as a voice actor, I would have my ups and downs as well. And I completely empathize with Mena Massoud in this case because, he thought he would make it with his big role, but unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be the case, and that even with Aladdin on his resume, he's still having a hard time trying to find auditions. And of course, as I said before, a lot of people might speculate a lot of different theories onto why it could be. Maybe it is regarding his race as his race as an Egyptian or someone of Arab descent. That is kind of difficult to find a legitimate part, or at least, to find a part that is not your typical Arab roles, even Mena Massoud himself stated that he is trying his best to avoid those stereotypical roles, like trying to, dress up like a freaking terrorist or something like that. He wouldn't, he has too much dignity to go and do that, and honestly, I do respect that. So I completely understand that, it's the reality is that Aladdin is actually not that much of a help for him, but I do empathize with him, and honestly, to be very honest, when looking back into the performance of Aladdin, I will say Mena Massoud deserves better. Because, as I said before, yeah, he is okay. Yeah, he may not be like a standout performance, but at least he did do his job well, you know? He did carry the movie decently. If there are a lot of flaws with the film, it's more blamed onto the writing more so than the performance itself. I do feel like with Mena Massoud, if you do give him a very strong script, you know, if you give him some great materials to work with, I'm sure he can handle those materials very well. So honestly, it does suck that he doesn't have anything, but I do hope that in the future there will be something for him, that one day we will see Mena Massoud in some other prominent roles, that, you know, it doesn't have to be chained to who he is in terms of his race or of his gender or whatever. You know, hopefully he will, you know, hopefully his career can go up from there. Like, at least admitting to the problem, at least to highlight this. Like, I don't know if some people might argue that maybe it's a bad move that he's doing about complaining about not getting much auditions, or maybe this is a smart thing that if he hasn't been much, then yes, he should speak out about it and he should take action. But hopefully, we will, hopefully, I do hope to see Mena Massoud in more different projects. I mean, the guy deserves better. He does have the talent to actually be in some, you know, to deliver some solid performances, and I do wish Mena Massoud the best of luck on that. Okay, so with that said, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I want to ask you guys, how do you feel about Mena Massoud's current situation? Do you feel like he deserves better? Do you think his acting is good? Do you feel like his acting is bad in Aladdin? How do you feel about Mena Massoud's current situation? Let me know what you all think. Let's see. Let's see now. What about Naomi Scott? After Aladdin, she went on to do Charlie's Angels, not a reboot, by the way, where the film flopped at the box office, where people might expect it would gather a lot of audience because of her role as Jasmine. But suddenly, it didn't. It really shows why people went to see the film more than others, because it is Disney and it is associated with the original film. Same goes to Will Smith, where he starred in Gemini Man, where the film also flopped at the box office. Well, that's the thing, though. Because with Will Smith and Naomi Scott, yeah, sure, they can get into some box office flops, but at least they are getting jobs. At least they are getting roles. The problem with Mena Massoud is that he's not getting anything. He's not appearing in movies, period. At least Naomi Scott and Will Smith are lucky that they're still getting roles. They're still getting auditions and stuff like that. In the case of Mena Massoud, however, he's not getting anything. So it's not about if the movie that they're in later on would be like a flop or something. It's the fact that if Mena Massoud would be in a movie, period. You know, that's the thing. It's just get him in something. Like, who cares if the movie later on would become a box office hit or a box office flop? Let Mena Massoud do something. Okay, let's see now. As someone who likes the live-action Aladdin, my heart really has to go out to Massoud. As an aspiring actor, I have personally gone through a little bit of this myself, and I know how stressful it can be. Here's hoping that Massoud's career picks up as soon as possible. Exactly. If you're an actor, then you know what Mena Massoud is going through. And I think, like, as actors, the one message that we can express to Mena is that you're not alone in this. And I mean, yeah, sure, with me as well. Like, I would be more than happy if someone can come in and give me some auditions to work on some, to work on whatever animated project or whatever commercial or voiceover work that you would need. If you need like a legitimate professional voiceover work, I can do the job for you. Trust me. You know, and the same with Mena Massoud is that I can understand how he would feel in this situation. So don't worry, like, we actors know how you feel, Mena. Alright, let's see right now. Despite how Naomi Scott being beautiful as Jasmine, like singing and acting on a Disney live-action remake, I would love to see Mena Massoud in future movies and wish him the best of luck. Alright, that's very nice. Let's see, do we have any other comments that we have? I'll read just this one. I agree Mena's Aladdin was decent, but he wasn't the best Aladdin either. He should get more roles, but this might be why he isn't in any future roles at the moment. Exactly. Alright. Oh, actually, you know what? I'll just read one more. One more right over here. Feel very bad for Mena. Like, I thought he did the role well. Sure, he didn't improve it, but I thought he was great as much as Naomi Scott and Will. In fact, I'm still in the Aladdin vibe. I love how the film found a way to make some improvements to the... No, excuse me. I found some improvements to the songs. I'm still singing Will version of Friend Like Me, and Mena's take on One Jump or A Whole New World. I think he is also a great singer. I really hope for the best for him in the future. Good luck, Mena. So you see, Mena, even in AniMat's crazy cartoon cast, we all got your back, bro. Okay, so with that said, it is now time that we are going to go and jump onto our next story. And with the next story, it does link a little bit to what we have discussed about here. There is a little bit of a connection, but I'm just going to give you all a little bit of a warning. Prepare to get angry at Disney on this. Because while Mena Massoud is having a hard time trying to find a role, meanwhile, the one white guy in the movie that many people have forgotten apparently is getting his own freaking spin-off. Now, just to refresh your memory, do you guys remember Prince Anders in the live-action remake of Aladdin? You don't? Oh, well, neither did I, because apparently that guy, he might have appeared in like maybe a scene or two, and that's literally it, but apparently that is enough for him to get an entire freaking spin-off on just this one guy. In fact, let me go, to go further into details, to remind you of who Prince Anders is, I'm going to go and read from my source here in The Hollywood Reporter. As it states, overly dressed and on the dim side, Anders was royalty from a fictional kingdom named Scanland and a suitor for the hand of Princess Jasmine. While only in less than a handful of scenes, as played by Billy Magnuson, with a mix of goofiness and haughty idiocy, the character, who was an original creation for the live-action remake, made a fun impression on audiences. And apparently from there, Disney decided that they're going to give him a whole spin-off for Disney+. And they even got some people already involved with it. Billy Magnuson is going to be returning back as his role. They also got some writers with Jordan Dunn and Michael Kwame, I think that's how you say his name, and even some of the producers of the live-action remake of Aladdin, Dan Lin and Jonathan Irich, are going to be returning to produce this movie with their company, or their banner more, I would say, with Ride Back. So that seems to be the big thing. That apparently we gotta have a Prince Anders spin-off. Apparently the first of its kind, a spin-off of something that came out of the live-action remake. Why? Who really wants this? Is there seriously a demand? Because, like, one thing that has confused me so much is that going through this Hollywood Reporter article, it keeps on going as to how somehow Prince Anders is this major show stealer. That, oh my god, even though he only appeared in a few scenes, audiences love Prince Anders. I don't know about you, but for me, I completely forgot that this character even existed. You know, I was there, like, I saw this thing, and I was like, who? What's a Prince Anders? I've never heard of a Prince Anders, and yeah, apparently, it's the one white actor that's just goofing, you know, that just appeared in a scene or two, that's just too stupid, literally too stupid to be with Jasmine, and apparently they want to give him a spin-off. Is there really a demand? Like, I honestly have no idea who they are doing this for. I don't know who's the target audience for this? I don't know what's the demand for this. It really does confuse me, because I even went as far as contacting one of my friends who is a total Aladdin freak. Like, her favorite movie was Aladdin and eats anything up that is related to Aladdin. So much so that she even loves the live action remake of Aladdin. So I decided, just out of curiosity's sake, to go and ask her, okay, what do you think of this? Because you're the Aladdin fan here. Is this something that you would want? And she told me, I would rather have an Aladdin sequel. You know, like a sequel to the live action remake. Which does make more sense. But I would love to know, why a Prince Anders spin-off? Like, if you are going to go and make a spin-off to the live action remake of Aladdin, why this? Why the fridge would you go with this? Because I can think of so many other ideas that do seem a lot more promising. Like, I can hand you, I can give you a bit of a handful right now. Like, you know, if you want to do a spin-off to the live action remake of Aladdin, why not do one about the genie? Because you know that by the end of the film, like, after his freedom, he would go and set sail around the world with his new wife, and now he has kids. Like, in fact, at the beginning, we see him tell the story of Aladdin by singing Arabian Night. You know, you can make a spin-off of Will Smith and his family going on these Sinbad world adventures. You can go and do that. Or, here's another one. You can actually do one that's starring Jasmine. You can make it all about Jasmine, because I believe at the end of the film, like, she became the new Sultan. And from there, why not show Jasmine showing off her powers as the new Sultan and how she is handling the politics of Agrabah. You know, you don't have to make like a political series. What I mean is that, why not show her, you know, make a series about Jasmine as the Sultan? Why not go and do that? Or heck, it doesn't have to be a spin-off at all. It could just be like a prequel to Aladdin, you know, watching how Aladdin became like a street rat or stuff like that. Or another great idea of a spin-off that you can do is the rise of power of Jafar. Like, see, how did Jafar become like some kind of like poor orphan boy, very mistreated, and how he rose to power where he became the Sultan's vizier. You know, you could do a spin-off like that. There are so many ways that you can go. You know, I am offering you these ideas. And yet, you decided none of that, and you gotta go with the one white guy in the frickin' movie. You gotta go with this one. Really? Really, Disney? And you know the one thing that really does frustrate me about this news, it's not just the fact that this idea of a spin-off is just so absolutely dumb. It's not just that that's really troubling with me. That's troubling me with this. It's not only a very stupid idea, but this is really of poor taste. And this is the big reason why this is so controversial to begin with. Is that Disney, there is a massive hypocrisy with Disney by doing this. Because with the Aladdin remake, Disney took massive pride on the diversity that they have displayed for their movies. Like, you may know Disney, that they're trying their hardest to make their brand present themselves as a very inclusive and a very diverse company, that they would support women groups, minority groups, racial minority groups. They're a proud supporter of the LGBT community and all that kind of stuff. They want to be presented as a very inclusive company. And yet, they are doing, and even with the Aladdin remake, they took pride in the fact that they have a movie in which almost everyone that's in the feature, almost every star in the film, is actually of either Arabic descent or it's a person of color. But then you would have this bit of news where Disney is literally going out of their way to give the most privilege to the white male compared to everyone else in the cast that is a racial minority and give that guy specifically an entire spin-off for Disney Plus. You know, and I just want to state right now that I have nothing against Billy Magnuson. I mean, the guy is just doing his job. He's just an actor, and I'm sure in real life he's a nice guy. I'm not pinning the blame on him on this at all. This is not his fault. This is purely Disney. And with the bullcrap that they have pulled off here, with the way that they, like, this literally is presenting white privilege above everyone else, that you gotta really dig deep to find the one white guy that might have appeared in a scene or two in the movie to give him an entire spin-off over everyone else. And it's so poorly timed too. Like, this was announced just days after it was revealed that Mena Massoud is still struggling as an actor to go and find a part. And yet here comes Disney giving this random white guy, it's like, hey, would you like to have your own entire spin-off since you helped us make Aladdin be very successful? Like, really, dude? Come on, man. This is such a bad move from Disney. Like, honestly, I really don't, like, I don't know who they're doing this for. Like, this is, like, I don't know. Maybe they're just maybe they did this on purpose, you know, to stir up trouble. You know, they just want to stir up some trouble or whatever. But I don't know, man. This is such a dumb move. Like, wow, that's bad. It really, I think that's what I'm more upset about with this news. It's the fact that it's more of poor taste than it really is a stupid idea. Because even if it is just a stupid idea, I could just go and say like, oh, well, maybe we could be wrong in the future and it might turn out to be a great spin-off. But honestly, with something like this, that just seems a very poor taste and almost a bit of a little bit, what could be perceived as a bit of a racist move here. Honestly, there's no way I can support this. Like, this is just a bad move all around. Like, good God, Disney. Like, what are you thinking, man? This really is a case of just where you can only sit and ask, what were they thinking when doing this? Like, good God. Like, I mean, yeah, sure, make a spin-off, whatever, but make a spin-off that makes sense. Don't make a spin-off based on that one little character that everybody has pretty much forgotten that has existed. It's ridiculous. And I feel like Disney really does deserve the backlash from this, because I know I'm not the only one who feels that way. I'm sure, like, I know that this has enraged so many others on the internet. So honestly, this is ridiculous, man. They, like, if there's any project that you need to backtrack on, it's got to be this. I'm sorry, Billy. I'm sure you're a great guy. I'm sure you're a great actor and you deserve more parts, but maybe not this one. Maybe put Prince Anders on hold, man. It's probably for the best for you, dude. It's for the best. Alright, so with that said, I would like to go into the chat wall and I want to know, what do you all think about the Prince Anders spinoff? Would you watch this? Is this what you guys want? I want to know. Who really wants a Prince Anders spinoff? I would like to know. Let me know what you all think of this. Okay. Let's see. Pardon me, but may I ask, who are the people that decided that this is a good idea and where do they live? I would like to have a friendly conversation with them. Just me and my baseball bat. Ooh, good luck with that, pal. Anyways, as poor as the timing for the news is, I think an Aladdin spin-off is a pretty good idea. Maybe detailing the origins of the genie or maybe Jafar, but Prince Anders out of all people, what a really random choice. With all the characters you could choose from, they picked the Prince dude that only appears for a couple of minutes. But I'll admit, there have been more weird choices from spin-offs in the past. Anyone remember Evan Almighty? Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, that is a good point. I mean, like, yeah, it may not be the stupidest idea. This is not the first time that something like this has happened, but still, when it does happen, it is pretty stupid. Alright, let's see now. Let's see. Where are we? my thoughts on the spin-offs. Nobody cares! Nobody cares! Alright, let's see. Okay, well, we got a lot of, like, short comments. By the way, Disney Plus is greenlighting an Ice Age spin-off with Buck and a Rio spin-off. Did they? I haven't heard that news, honestly. I probably would have heard of it. I don't know. Like, I would probably demand if you would have your source for that, but I don't know. I doubt it. I haven't heard from this yet. Maybe it was recently announced, but I don't know. Anyways, let's see now. The problem with Prince Anders having his own spin-off is that Anders was kind of a comic relief. With exceptions of some shows like Timon and Pumbaa and Penguins of Madagascar, a spin-off focusing on the comic relief almost never works. Is this made because of the actor's favoritism from the executives? How come I can remember almost every pony in My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, but I barely remember this guy? Exactly, that's kind of the big question. Who even remembers Prince Anders? Like, even this one comment, it's like, who the hell remembers this idiot? I'd rather a Jafar spin-off than Prince Anders, or even Omi a spin-off. I'd rather that. Alright, do we have any other thoughts as well? Let's see. Oh, here we go. Yes, there we go. Personally, I wouldn't find if it was a series or prequel to Aladdin himself. Oh, I wouldn't mind if it was a series or a prequel to Aladdin himself. It might even help Mena Massoud with this time of need. I could really need and go for any other end of the characters like Genie or Jasmine, but this random guy that we thought he was mauled by the tiger and then come back later in the party, seriously, now that's just stupid. Yeah, exactly. Or, you know, honestly, the only thing that I could find that is stupider than this, if there is one spin-off that I can think of that would be much dumber than this, would be a spin-off of the prince that Genie made appear in the distance. You know the one that I'm talking about? Like, you know when the Genie is just on the side chillaxing with Aladdin, like, oh, there is a bit of a gray area in Make Me a Prince. Like, I can make you a prince, like, and then suddenly you see in the distance, like, there's this one prince that's like, hey, have you seen my palace? I just want to go home, man. Like, that's all, like, this is almost as dumb as literally making a spin-off of that guy, and that's it. Like, seriously, dude, you know you're bad when you're literally one step away from making a spin-off of the prince that the Genie made appear. Like, why not go and do that? Okay. Let's see. I'll go and read one more before we're going to jump on to the next one. This seems worse than spin-offs to sitcoms where pivotal characters are absent from the show, therefore losing what made the original series memorable. Examples are the Golden Palace from The Golden Girls and Joey from Friends. Honestly, there is also another example of what you're talking about. You know, where like you got a spin-off of one character. And, yeah, like a spin-off of, like, this minor character from a show and just giving him his entire series, and it just failed, and that character would just go back. Yeah, some people are saying Planet Sheen, but there is one that I'm referring to that is a very infamous, a very infamous title, a very infamous show. Ba-da-ba-ba-da! My name is Cleveland Brown, and I am proud to be right back in my hometown with my new family. There's old friends and new friends and even a bear. Okay, I'm not gonna sing all of it, guys, just to, you know, just to give you all some mercy right there. But I do hope you did enjoy that little musical number. Like that's the most that I do remember from the theme song of the Cleveland show. All right, but anyways, with that said though, it is now time that we are going to go and end things off with the grand finale. And with this one, oh, we're still going to be angry on this because this is a little bit of a controversial story as well. And this is related to Sony really messing up with their animation, something of which that they should be ashamed of themselves on. And I know some people right now, with me saying that, they're like, Oh god, AniMat is ranting about Sony Pictures Animation again. Here comes another Sony Animation rant from AniMat. Okay, yes, nope. What? Who the fridge is calling me? I'll save that for later. Sorry. Okay, anyways. Going back to what I was talking about. Okay, yes. Okay. Technically, it's not what you think. It is about Sony. It is related to animation, but this is not about Sony Pictures Animation at all. It is not related to that. What I am referring to, however, is actually referring to PlayStation. Now, PlayStation recently, or more, PlayStation Japan, if I may say. Now, the thing with PlayStation Japan is that with that company, they have released a brand new promo to go and reveal their winter lineup. They put out a video that's their winter mix. And in there, we're not going to be focusing necessarily on the promo itself, because a lot of it is just showing off what would be the upcoming games for the PlayStation 4. But instead, we're going to be talking about some little moments that have happened here and there, where they would mix some elements of animation, where during that time, during the promo, they would cut to some little animated bits where we see this story of this kid that's having this dream where he's kind of like in this psychedelic, action-packed world. And I'll show you a little clip of this. Now that is just one little piece of animation compared to some of the others as well. But then came this one individual. Enter Ian Jones-Quartey, which you may know as the creator of OKKO Let's Be Heroes, along with a very prominent figure at Cartoon Network who has worked on some shows like Steven Universe and Adventure Time. And by the way, just a quick little side note, by the way, I just would like to mention a huge congratulations to Ian, because after being in a 12-year relationship with Rebecca Sugar, the creator of Steven Universe, the two are finally married this week. So just a major congratulations on the happy couple, and hopefully the rest of your life will truly be not only filled with joy, but also be highly animated as well. So, anyways, back onto the story that I'm talking about. Now, Ian Jones-Quartey, he took a look at this promo, and he saw something that was massively suspicious. There was something very off with that animation that you have seen. More specifically, with this little bit where the kid character was grabbing onto the earth with his mechanical arms. Like, just have a quick look at this. Yeah, this bit right here. Now, Ian took a look at that, and he saw this, and he stated on Twitter, like, hold on. That thing looks way too familiar. That little piece of animation, that looks a little bit too much like what they have done in Steven Universe the movie. Like a little too similar, where it seems like the animation might have been traced. And more, ever since Ian pointed that out, more artists have started to realize that this is not the only piece of animation that this promo might have ripped off. There have been plenty of other moments where it looks like they have indeed been ripping off, not just from like other studios, but even from small independent animators. And from there was actually one YouTuber who, by the way, this is a video from Avant Viral, where it's only about 30 seconds long, but has pointed out exactly all the different animations that this promo has blatantly ripped off. And if you guys are watching this, if you guys can see this, then you will find that the situation, it is far worse than you can ever imagine. So let's just check this out. So, of course, this is a scene that completely rips off Steven Universe the movie. There, just go back a little bit. They ripped off a clip from Fooly Cooly. This one is called, this piece of animation is from Last Word by Oleg Kozitsyn. I think that's how you say its name. And then you got, hold on, just a little quick thing. There's, like that one went by really quick. This is a piece of animation called Orphée from Goblins. So there's that piece. And then there's a piece of animation by Vincent Chanzard. So there's that piece. And then, this one takes the grand majority of it. Like, it rips off a lot of another piece of animation from Goblins called Mailed It. And then there's another one from Jocelyn Charles that it completely rips off. And then, and then the rest, this is another big one that it rips off, called Loon of Atlantis Moonlight from Souviens Tenzan. So as you could tell, it really does rip off a lot. And when you look at when you do look at the two promos, they are massively uncanny. Like, the similarities, they are way too close to even be considered it's way too similar to even be considered a coincidence. So far, we have not received, as I am recording this, we have not received an official word from PlayStation Japan, but the only thing that they have done so far is that they have removed it from its YouTube page. Now, you can still find it online, you just cannot find it officially from PlayStation Japan. There are others, though, that have uploaded. I'm using my article here from Kotaku, using my source, and they do have one video, and the full version, you can find it, like, this one is actually uploaded by a YouTuber uploaded by a YouTube channel by the name of Games Box, and they have put it up to show the full evidence how this is massively the case. And looking into this, it's just, wow, this is terrible. Like, honestly, there really is a fine line between paying homage and then there's full-on plagiarism. And as you can tell, and as you can see, this really is, bit by, with the way that they are copying so many different artists, you could tell how this is, bit by bit. It's a little too similar. It's a little too uncanny with the way that they share the same kind of animations. This is legitimately traced over and may have altered it a little bit to make it its own thing. And yeah, this is honestly pretty bad. Paying homage, that's perfectly fine. If there is something in Steven Universe that you really love, you want to see an epic moment with either Steven or for example, let's say a great example. If you love that scene that was animated by James Baxter, that moment when there are two Stevens and that Steven learned about self-love, and you see the two Stevens hugging each other while there's this giant white diamond that's just on the side looking at this two Stevens hugging each other. If you want to make an animated scene that pays homage to that, you want to make a reference to it, that's perfectly fine. Just as long as you don't copy the exact same scene frame by frame. And this is exactly what this is doing. Not only is this highly immoral, but this is illegal as well. You are definitely ripping off some major copyright infringements. And I mean, yeah, sure, there really is the immoral factor that they are ripping off independent artists, that they are taking their small pieces of animation and just copying it from there. That is absolutely shameless. But when you do that, when a big studio would do that to small artists, unfortunately, not much action could actually take place. There isn't a whole lot of action that could actually happen. But in this instance, however, I feel like there could be something even bigger. Not just public backlash, but it wouldn't be hard to imagine that there would be some kind of class action lawsuit, or there would be a full-on lawsuit against PlayStation Japan for full-on plagiarism. Because it's not just these small artists that they've ripped off, like Goblins or Oleg Kozitsyn or Jocelyn Charles and stuff like that. You saw at the beginning, they full-on ripped off Cartoon Network with the Steven Universe movie, and then they also ripped off Fooly Cooley. Like, they ripped off from Production IG, and I don't think Production IG would be happy to see that they took one of their most beloved animes and completely ripped them off, completely copied one of their scenes. In fact, some people even state that this could, like, the scene that they have ripped off is one of the most famous pieces of animation from Fooly Cooley. So it wouldn't necessarily surprise me one bit if it does happen that PlayStation Japan might actually see some actual, like, might actually see some major court damage from this, that they might end up in court for something like this because they've also tampered with some major companies for this piece of animation, and it truly is shameful. Like, I don't know what the situation is. I don't know if they will ever address this, or maybe just removing the video from their channel is all that they're going to do and just try to move on from it. But yeah, this is shameful. This truly is. Because as I stated, there is a serious fine line between what can constitute as an homage, what is paying tribute, and what is just flat out stealing. And this is just flat out stealing. The animation is just way too similar for that. And there better be a response from PlayStation Japan, otherwise, like, it could be brutal. Like, this could seriously damage PlayStation Japan's relationship with artists. And you never, like, honestly, will there be some consequences? Will this just be an incident that we should just tap PlayStation by the hand and just move on? I don't know, but yeah, this really does leave a massive bad taste in my mouth. Like, wow, like, you really have to go that far to just rip off other artists for the sake of doing your own promo. I don't know what happened behind the scenes. I don't know what the intentions are, but this truly is shameful, man. Like, good God. This really is kind of like bottom of the barrel crap kind of animation that you would do. Like, producing bad animation is one thing, but stealing other people's work, like, that is just shameful. That is something that I can never respect. In fact, just recently, I actually did put out my review of Playmobil the movie, and that's another thing that technically it didn't rip off animations from the Lego movie, but you could definitely tell that the intentions of that film is to rip off the Lego movie, and that's why I have no respect for it, and that's why I feel like it is an absolutely terrible feature, and easily one of the worst animated films of the year, right up there with Arctic Dogs. So honestly, I have no respect for plagiarism. I have no respect for like big companies to flat out do something like this, and they think that they could get away with it just because they're a big company, especially taking animations from smaller artists. Like, that's the thing, is that most of it is from smaller artists instead of just, like, instead of like these big companies. Yeah, it did Steven Universe the movie. It did do Fooly Cooley, but like, even going after, like, Goblins and Jocelyn Charles and all those people, this is shameful, man. There's no other way to put it. This is just freaking shameful. So, with that said, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I want to know, what do you guys think about all this? What are your thoughts about PlayStation stealing animations for the sake of their own promo? I don't know what the fridge else to add. I can't be like the whole discuss thing. It was like, oh, do you think it's good? Do you think it's bad? No, I think it is a fact that it is bad. Let me know what you all think. Let's see now. Let's see. This reminds me, when I started doing animations in 2011, I would rotoscope a few scenes from Disney with other characters, but the reason why I did that is to poke fun at the fact that Disney would do sometimes reuse their animations, especially in Robin Hood and the Jungle Book. It was a bad habit, but I just did it for fun, and I did credit the source. This, however, we're talking about PlayStation Japan, a professional company, and the video was meant as a promo. If you're going to do a promo, try to be original. Exactly. And you know, I'm sure there would be some people that would bring that up, and it does bring up a good point. Like, what is it that this commenter said like what he did in his past, why is that okay compared to this? Because what he was doing, like, that was just for fun. He was just doing it for his own time. It was just for his leisure, for his own leisure. He was not doing it for profit. He was just doing it on his own terms. And even like when people would say, like, what about Disney when they would do that for Robin Hood, especially with The Phony King of England, which like pretty much reuses animation from like the Jungle Book, the Aristocats, and Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. What about that? Well, the thing is that technically, yes, Disney is ripping off animation, but they're ripping off animation from themselves. That they can pretty much get away with. There's no copyright law. There's nothing that's stolen. They're doing it by themselves, you know? They're kind of just recycling their old material. So they can get away with it because technically the person that they're ripping off is just themselves. So that's not a problem. This one, however, with PlayStation, not only are they taking elements from others that do not belong to them, but also they are doing this as profit. They are doing this for the purpose of selling you something. And plus the fact that with the promo itself, like they are using it as like something to they're using it as a legitimate commercial to sell you a product. That is when you're going not just something that is highly immoral, but also that it is something illegal that you would do. Like, this is something that could put PlayStation Japan into court. Like, rather it be Production IG or Cartoon Network or even some of the independent artists that they could go into some kind of lawsuit against them, they could do that. Okay, let's see now. What else do we got? Considering that the era where Disney traced their own previous movies was during a time when everything was still hand-drawn and they were going through financial hardships, I'll give them leeway for being a bit lazy with some of those old trace animation sequence. Exactly, it's like what I said. They're ripping off other animations, but they're ripping off their own animations. As an animator, I do use animations from other things for inspiration, but I don't flat out copy them. I just look at them and get an idea of how I should animate something, as you should do. Like, that's perfectly fine to study the animations done by Ollie Johnston or Milt Kahl or Eric Goldberg to find inspirations on how you can execute your animations. That is perfectly fine. You know, as I said, there's a fine line between paying homage and get inspiration and just flat out plagiarism and just copying what the other person has done. There is a major fine line on that. Let's see. I met Chris Buck a month ago, and he told me that he used to trace Peanuts characters as a kid so that he could learn how to draw. Now today, he's one of the most successful filmmakers. Exactly. But that's just as a kid. That's to go and advance your own art. He's not selling those Peanuts drawings. He's just doing it to craft his own skills. And I'll admit, I used to do that as a kid. Like, when I was a kid, to update my drawings to make them better, I used to go and trace some cartoon characters. I used to trace, like, some Garfield comics by myself to go and advance my drawing skills. I completely understand. Let's see now. There really is no shame into this. Although I did read that they did make a response saying that they did not know that it was plagiarized, but other than that, I wouldn't say that considering an apology. I wouldn't say that's concerning an apology. By the way, before we go, major congratulations. Do Ian and Rebecca for their he wants to congratulate. Congratulations to Ian and Rebecca for sharing a new family happy marriage. Okay, yeah, that's very nice. At least, I'll go and read one more thing. Actually, the guy at fault for this is animation director Kevin Ball, who was fired from Elan Animation. He was the one who ripped off most of those animations. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised that if this story would continue, then we're going to see the blame be passed on everywhere. So far, like, PlayStation Japan is getting a major blunt at this, but then I can imagine, like, we're going to go into specifics, like, who would be the marketing team, who would be the animation studio that was responsible for this, who was the animator that did that. I'm sure we're going to, like, I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to hear a little bit of a continuation to what happened with all this. But if we can end this off on a happy note, yes, at the very least, even if PlayStation Japan has been ripping off other people's animations and should be ashamed of themselves for that, for their promo, at least Ian and Rebecca are happily married. And with all that said, that should be it with this episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. So I would like to say thank you all so much for listening, and thank you all so much for watching. It has definitely been a lot of fun so far, and hopefully we can continue all this madness on the next episode. So with all that said, once again, I would like to say thank you all so much for listening, thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, see you later, dudes!